Yes, this is the New Jersey Weed Man, and I'm doing a follow-up video to the events that happened in the last couple weeks. 2 weeks ago, I got released from jail. When I got released from jail, I carried out a letter from Sean Ternansky. Okay, now when I got released from jail, I put this letter on my website. But within a couple hours, I took it down. Okay. Now, I took it down because I had people telling me, like, dude, that's not your issue. And, like, they were afraid for me because at the time I thought I was going to go back to jail, like, in 10 days. So they were like, you need to take that down. So I did take it down. But I did follow through on my promise to Sean that I would get the letter out. And I gave it to a couple newspapers, and I gave it to the Libertarian Party, and a couple online organizations like wearechange.org, which they sent a representative down from New York to actually videotape me reading this letter. So this video I'm making now is actually a follow-up to that. Okay. Now, as I said in the original video, that the allegations that Sean made in his letter sounded believable to me. It passed my smell test, but I'm no investigator. Someone needs to investigate this. But because it passed my smell test, I did present the letter and give the letter, and I followed through on my commitment, my promise to get the letter out to the public, which I did. But, like I said, I took the letter down off of my website the next day, but apparently about the same time my letter was on the internet, the warden artist went to the gym at the jail and confronted Sean and basically threw him in the hole, and he's been in the hole ever since. So that's part of why I'm doing this follow-up letter, because I kind of feel guilty, that me and Sean, while I was still in jail, we discussed the fact that if I get this letter to somebody, you are still in jail for a couple months and you may get retaliated against it. But we were pretty confident at the time that nothing would happen to him. And now, I don't know, I feel like he's been in jail not in jail, he's been in the hole now for the last 2 weeks. And when I say the hole, when you go to administrative segregation unit, it's a green room. It's cold. There's nothing in there. The only thing in there is your blanket, if you're lucky, and a mattress. Now, it makes you want to pull your hair out when you're in there. It's absolute boredom. And I couldn't imagine being in there for the last 2 weeks, like Sean apparently has been. He has not contacted me. No one's heard from him. But like I said, I did follow through on my commitment to get the message out, and I did. WeAreChange.org has put that video out, and as of now, over 20,000 people have seen it. It's been downloaded numerous times. It is definitely spreading on the internet. The two news organizations I gave the letter to have inquired, and they got basically letters or responses from the county saying like nothing unusual happened. The Libertarian Party, John Path, I think that's how he says his name, he actually wrote a public records request, and the county records actually followed up with a response. But basically their response was, we don't have nothing, and if we did have something, we wouldn't give it to you. I'll put these letters up where you can read them right here in the description on this YouTube. Okay. The one thing that the public records request did, it did clarify one thing, that Mr. Taylor, who died in jail, was in jail because he didn't pay his $500 bail. From my understanding of the story, that he owed like $96 for something. He didn't go to court, so he was issued a $500 bail warrant. Okay, and then at some point later, he was drunk in public and arrested. The scuttlebutt and jail after all this went down was the guy was cold. He was a homeless person. He showed up somewhere on purpose, publicly drunk, and got himself arrested so he can go to jail and be warm. This is what I was told, but I don't know that. That was jail scuttlebutt. Can't prove that. I don't know. But I was reading Mr. Paff's original request, and the one thing I did notice in his request, he asked for any records, any police incident or report that was issued after Taylor was found dead in his cell. Well, if I was an investigator, I would ask what happened before he was in his cell. Remember, he was in Ad Seg. He was in the hold, like he'd done something. And I've been in the hole before. Let me explain what happens to you when you're in a hole. I had to dig up my old papers. Now, here's me in November, just past November 20th, 2000, and I was caught with a banned substance. The banned substance was calcium pills. Now, I brought the calcium pills into the jail from the street because the month before when I was in jail, they didn't have calcium pills. In my medical condition, I needed to take calcium pills every day. So I brought my own calcium pills to jail. When I got there, the intake officer, Officer Cluxton, took them from me. I told him I was trying to give them to the nurse. He said that I couldn't give them to the nurse. No problem. I was cool with that. But then he put them in my legal paperwork, which I didn't know he did it. And later, when they did a cell search, they found my calcium pills in my legal mail. And I got in trouble for it. And I got charged. I got sent to the hole. I was in the hole for 2.5 days. And then what happens, because you're supposed to have a hearing within 72 hours, then I had basically like a jail court. It's like an adjudication hearing with officers, and these officers, these are the procedures that happen, and these are the procedures that should have happened to Mr. Taylor. That's why I'm showing this. Mr. Paff, he's probably never been in jail. He doesn't know about these things. Okay, so I had my 72-hour hearing. I got found guilty. Where's the bat? I got found guilty. Okay. I was released on 11/22, which was about a little bit less than 72 hours from the time I was, put in the hole. My sanction was 3 days. So a couple hours later, at the 72-hour mark, I actually was released from the hole. Now, I say all this because Mr. Taylor, after his arrest, seems like he went straight from the street to the hole. Like, what did he do? Like, he should have had something like this, a charge sheet. Like, this is what he should have had. There should be a record of this. Why was he in the hole in the first place? Why was he in Ad Seg? Okay? Now, like I said, you're supposed to have one of these, a hearing, within 72 hours. After the 72-hour mark and Mr. Taylor was still in the hole, like, why? Okay, there should be a sheet like this explaining. Was Mr. Taylor found guilty and given 10 days? Was Mr. Taylor found guilty and given 7 days? Like, in the hole? Like, okay, at the 3-day mark, there should have been this paper. Should have been there. Now, as we know from Sean's letter, Mr. Taylor had died 5 days later, and he had never moved and never left. So, in Sean's letter, it doesn't say anything about Mr. Taylor being removed from his cell, going to a 72-hour hearing, and then put back in his cell. It doesn't say anything about it. That's what I noticed as a prisoner. This is one of the reasons why I kind of believe the story or want to know more about the story. Mr. Path from the Libertarian Party. And I commend Mr. Path from the Libertarian Party because I gave this to a few people and they didn't do anything. So, I noticed that Mr. Path has also sent a follow-up, a a second request letter. Now all this is on the internet, on the links. You can read these yourself, okay? But the point of the matter is, I also gave this to the press, and I gave it to the press not to glorify myself or anything, because I don't want any credit for this. I just want someone to find out why Sean is in the hole. He is a whistleblower. If anything, he is a whistleblower. There's whistleblower laws and protections. There's even a federal whistleblower act. It appears that he, through me, gave this letter out to the public, and he has been punished now, and he's in the hole, possibly in the same cell that Mr. Taylor died in. Okay? Come on now. Imagine that. Okay? Now, I gave this letter to the press once again because the press has the responsibility. They were given that responsibility by the founders of this country. If you get all nostalgic and constitutional, and you've got to understand that the founding fathers of this country gave the press the responsibility to report to the people the abuses of government. I believe what Sean was doing was reporting what he felt was abuse to the government. I mean, to an individual, to the press. That's what he was trying to do. And he's been punished for it. He's in the hole. Now, the press has the obligation to investigate this charge and report this charge to we the people. So far, the government itself has denied it, has not released any paperwork. Officially, Mr. Taylor's death is listed as he died from natural causes. That's not what Sean's letter says. You should read Sean's letter. Read it. Okay? If you think it's full of shit, then so be it. But if you investigate and you find there's issues, there's issues. And I have no beef with none of the officers Sean listed in his letter. None. In fact, I know some of the officers at the Burlington County Jail are on my Facebook and have seen this. I know it's been a conversation because I talked to someone who told me that it was a conversation of a couple conversations. So on top of all that, I'm worried about if one day I end up back in the Burlington County Jail and someone remembers that I was the one who passed this letter out to the press, and I end up in the hole. So I don't want that to happen either. So I think someone should investigate this. I think Sean should be taken out of the hole immediately. The press should be screaming bloody murder as to what's going on and how come the county is not answering any of their public records requests. But anyway, until then, this actually goes over my head. This is a constitutional issue, the First Amendment constitutional issue of the utmost importance, and I think the press should report this to the people. And I think the people and the government should have answers. Peace.